Hey everybody, it's your boy Eduardo Jackson, CEO, founder, creator of the Cinema Draft game, coming at you with no guests this week. It's just the shot list. Every once in a while, it's nice to check in and go over some best practices to make sure we're making the best call sheets possible and to make sure that we're using all the tools uh, possible and available at our disposal. Also, to be honest with you, I won't say I lost track of getting a guest this week. I've just been really busy trying to raise funds for the game. Also, quick reminder, we have our WeFunder page, wefunder.com/cinemadraft. Only $100 to invest in the future of Cinema Draft. Make sure you check it out and support the game. All right, so and actually, before we dive in, real quick, what I'm watching, just off the cuff. One of the things I'm watching is The Incredible Jessica James. Or I watched it. It's a Netflix movie. It came out essentially late Thursday night, as Netflix want to do at midnight. And it was charming, quirky, small film. Not a lot. There's really not a lot to it. It felt like a black female Woody Allen type of romantic comedy. Largely set in New York centered. It's about a struggling artist, the struggling playwright who it's kind of up and down in love, trying to get over her ex-boyfriend, and so that kind of pervades the whole theme of the movie. And she's just what you call herself? Well, she's a quirky but a dope ass queen or something like that. I think that's how she described herself. Anyways, it was cute. It was charming. It was and very low stakes. Watching a lot of high stakes stuff, so it was very interesting to see a low stakes type of comedy where I mean this thing couldn't have cost more than a few $1 million. Just a handful of sets. And it's the type of movie that, quite honestly, studios aren't making anymore, and honestly, have never really made for black women. So it's kind of cool to see a young black woman at the center of all this, with a fairly eclectic but specific world that was good to see. Small get off my lawn moment. I could not get used to that nose ring of hers. What's going on with that? Anyways, that was in for like half the movie. It was a little distracting for me. I know, get off my lawn. I'm an old man, but she's a talented performer. She's good to look at. She's got some comedic timing, and her co-star Chris O'Dowd. You know him from Bridesmaids. That's for Bridesmaids. Another, kind of quirky performer. Was it Scottish dude, Irish dude? He had a really strong accent, and he was really funny. He's kind of like the main romantic lead interest, and even though they don't seem like a very likely pair, they get on just fine. So yeah, so Incredible Jessica James is what I watched earlier this weekend, and then also I started watching The Last Tycoon. Now, y'all know how I love me some good historical fiction, and this is exactly what it gives us. It gives us the studio system back in 1936, so it's the middle of the Depression. It's got your boy Matthew Bomer, I think Bomer. He stars as a studio head, or well, no, he's kind of like the boy genius, the second in command at a studio to Kelsey Grammer. Don't see him in there yet, and he's based in. And Matthew Bomer's character's name is Oh, excuse me. What's his name? Oh, yeah, Martin Starr, Stahr. And oh, sorry, Monroe Starr, Stahr, and he's grieving over his dead wife who died 2 years ago. Um, while making a picture or something like that. She was a movie star. She died in a fire, and so he's trying to get over her. This woman right here, she's the boss's daughter. Kind of dropped out of college to want to be a producer. So everyone's kind of like everyone's she's kind of like the quote unquote accessible boss daughter. She's the type that goes to try every job in the studio to get an idea how the studio system works. That was the writer on the film that she's trying to produce. Yeah, they're Matthew Bomer going to work, I guess. Yeah, and Bomer, is it Bomber or Bomer? I think we call him Bomer. Matthew Bomer. He was once in the latest iteration of Superman with Henry Cavill. He was on the short list for Superman. I mean, he's got like the classic kind of lantern-jawed look. You all know him from White Crime. No, sorry, White Collar. That show on USA where he played like a convicted felon who was released, but on an ankle tracker to work with the FBI. He's a con man to help solve white collar crimes. So that's what Matthew Bomer made his bones on. What fans are largely known for, that, and also the Magic Mike movies. Well, no comment there. Does she have an arm in a sling? Uh-oh. Oh, okay, that's her dress. Yeah, she had quite a dress. There's quite a dress she's wearing in The Last Tycoon. But yeah, so it's a period piece, and it's really good. It's written, directed by, at least I think the first 2 episodes are written, directed by Billy Ray. Billy Ray also directed the. No, directed I think he directed the pilot, directed the 2nd episode, and period piece. Like I said, very very great costumes, all sort of stuff, and it's about the studio system back in the day. So I'm always down for that, but it's interesting though because there he is. There's Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer plays the studio boss and the father of Lily Collins' daughter who wants to be the producer, and it's interesting, a bit of a power struggle because he wants to be the person talked about on the lot, but everyone talks about Matthew Bomer's character, Monroe Star, because Monroe is kind of like the rainmaker, the kid with the great instincts or whatever. But Kelsey Grammer is excellent in this too. He's really, I mean, you never really known him from Frasier, but he's a really talented actor, really good at playing assholes. He's a bit of an asshole in this film, cheats on his wife, has huge crushes on his actresses, and then also is constantly warring with his better self against Monroe Star, who has, of course, the young instincts that are likely to save the studio. So anyways, so it's really good. It is fascinating though, in a movie like this. I mean, it is 2 full episodes through. We're well into the 3rd episode before we even see a black character. I mean, that's kind of typical of the studio system back in the 1930s to an extent, but also, I mean, you always want to, you always are consciously or unconsciously looking for voices or faces that look like yours, but it does come in force in the 3rd episode, directed by Julianne Robinson, where Jennifer Beals makes an appearance just after her black maid shows up on screen, and that's kind of interesting. And actually, Jennifer Beals is playing a character who, for all intents and purposes, is white or passing for white. So there's that. But it's kind of interesting. You can go, almost 2.5 episodes without seeing a black person on screen in this show, but thoroughly enjoyable. Historical fiction, studio system in an era that's not really talked about during the Depression, where the Third Reich is on the rise, Hitler is rising to power, and Germany is an important movie trading partner. So they have like an actual Germany representative on the lot who's basically vetting films for whether they're anti-Germany or not. It's kind of bizarre, but it's a really interesting series. I'm about halfway through, 5 episodes in. I mean, it's hard to put down. I guess there's only 9 episodes in this first season, but really good stuff. Make sure you check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. Oh, and also earlier on, The Incredible Jessica James is on Netflix. Just get those taken care of and out of the way. Okay, so just a shot list. We're gonna jump into this. We're gonna create a call sheet. We're gonna go to my dummy call sheets. We're gonna actually delete the one in the background talent. I might keep this, I might not, but we'll at least go through some of the thought processes of how we can really construct a call sheet using all the tools at our disposal. Oops, sorry, that's the wrong one. There we go. So let's click onto the background talent. Okay, we're going to draft the call sheet. And so one thing, the only advantage I have over you guys, besides being creator of the game, is that I do have like this little spreadsheet, which is a spreadsheet version of what you guys see up in the talent pool. And so basically it makes it a little bit easier, but really, it's still, at the end of the day, I mean, we're still all playing from the same talent pool. But but this is just kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on this week in the talent pool. You kind of see you see what a lot of these are guesstimations. These are estimated, to be honest, estimated screens in release, because we don't get harder more confirmation till later when we check Box Office Mojo or some other places for our theater counts. See if these have been updated at all. Not really. Yeah, so not a lot of information. This is what I base it off of largely. And then some of them you have to kind of guess at it, like the expansion of Landline. I'm not too sure. I think it's supposed to go to, well, I'm guessing 300. I guess I'm being optimistic. Safety with the Inconvenient sequel, I'm guessing 400 because it's supposed to go out wider this weekend. But you never know. So we'll see. All right, so actually wrong page. All right, so basically with this bird's eye view, the one thing I'm definitely looking for is estimated gross and estimated value. And what I mean by value is how much estimated points I'm getting per dollar. It's what I always like to look at. And actually, just to give you an idea, I kind of took it down. Let me see if I can bring it back. This is the talent pool from last week. Let's drag this over here. So it's all said and done, right? You kind of see how it breaks down, per screen average, stuff like that, box office per million. So something you want to kind of be cognizant of. I don't actually have. This is interesting. I don't actually have a column for this. I might insert a column for this. Might be interesting to see. Is basically points per dollar. I thought I had this somewhere. Maybe it was on the old call sheets or what have you. But yeah. Anyways, one thing I'm keenly interested in is how much I'm getting per dollar I spend. Oh, that's right. So we don't have salaries on here, so that's why it would make it a little difficult to do that. But salary wise, I'm always kind of cognizant. Like, all right, so if I spend this much, how many points will it get me? Versus if I spend that much on this film, how many points it will get me? You always want to be cognizant of how much you're spending budget wise, because money is power. Your budget is your power. So you want to make sure that you're spending wisely. So in a week like this, so in a week like last week, let's just take a look at last week real quick per se. You're looking at, if we're going by, let's sort it by fantasy points. Oops, sorry, wrong way. Hello, let's see what I do. Sort. Oh, okay, all right. So I see what they did. Okay, anyways, so if you're sorting by fantasy points, all right. So let's forget about these. These are not where it's at. So if you're looking at here, like Dunkirk, so 26.61 points, and then you're looking at what it cost for an actor on that movie. And I'm not saying I do this all the time. Like I mean, it probably would be better if I start doing this. This is a technique usually used in like daily fantasy. It is called like value. Like we're trying to see like how many points you're getting per dollar spent. It's usually like a factor of like a factor of like of one. So it's like I'm getting 5x. I'm getting 5 times salary or whatever for this player. I'm getting 3x for this player, and depending on the size of the budget, you wanted certain type of value coming from your player. So on a movie like Dunkirk, for example, 14,500 at the top end for Tom Hardy, and you look at the box office at 26.61 points. I mean, that's pretty good return. So basically, you're looking at, I don't know, and basically you're getting about like basically about 2x per se. 26 divided by 14, whatever, for your points. It's pretty good in this game. And you want to be cognizant of the value of the dollars per points that you're spending. Just as a rule of thumb. All right. So with that in mind, as we go to this week, as you can see, some of our more expensive. Some of our more expensive films. Actually, the most expensive film on the slate is The Dark Tower. It's new, HSX. which is another valuable tool, hsx.com. It is the Hollywood Stock Exchange. I sometimes go there to get an idea of what the market is thinking for opening weekend. So this is also a helpful gauge for you as you're picking out your call sheets, what the market thinks is going to do for opening weekend. And it's not too off. Like, for example, Atomic Blonde. Oh, okay, I guess it's already open, so it won't show us much. But Atomic Blonde, they showed when I was checking the potential grosses, they were guesstimating about just under like 19 million, 18, 19 million for its opening weekend. So I kind of held that in the back of my mind when I was not so much when I was setting prices, because when I was setting prices, I was higher on Atomic Blonde before I actually saw it. When I saw Atomic Blonde, I enjoyed it. It is a kick-ass movie, but it really has this weird, odd pacing that makes it kind of hard to recommend. And also, once I learned more about it, that it's produced by Focus Films, Focus Features, whatever, they're not like a really big, I mean, they're an independent producer, not used to putting out like a ton of big picture stuff. I mean, this movie was gonna be destined for only but so much. So that's a good way to take good advantage of HSX. So, for example, I mean, and once again, these are just guidelines. I mean, always beware to trust what the numbers are telling you, trust what the market's telling you. What as our chocolate cardinal, the WBW or Working Black Writer would say, what's in the zeitgeist out there, what the streets are talking. Also, Box Office Pro, can't stress this enough. They come out on Wednesdays. I'm taping this early Wednesday morning. They come out on Wednesdays with their weekend forecast, and they once again guidelines. They're not always right, but they give you some a decent range to work with. And then also, Rotten Tomatoes can kind of play into it a little bit, because you can get an idea of what people want to see. It's like that 95% want to see meter is actually really instructive. Detroit might do well. The Dark Tower, 99% want to see. I mean, and also keep this in mind that people who are adding this or plussing this, or I guess, or however they're adding it, I guess the want to see rating or whatever. These are people who click this are more likely to want to see it. This is oversampled, is what I'm saying. Basically, most people who want to see this are going to click this. Most people who don't will probably ignore it. So let's keep that in mind. So 95, 99%. Not sure if those are numbers you actually can really take too seriously yet, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so there's a lot of tools at our disposal, and of course, Box Office Mojo, which tells you the theater counts, and will tell you how some of these genres have gone, in the past. So, for example, you click on The Dark Tower. You click on, all right, so the genre is fantasy. So maybe we can take a look at some fantasy movies. Let's see. Let's take a look at some of these genres. And this, to be honest with you, I don't do nearly enough. But all this is at our disposal. Here's the genre index. We can look at fantasy live action. All right, kind of like Beauty and the Beast. So Beauty and the Beast did gangbusters, obviously. These are the top 100. And if you want to go by opening, well, there you go. These are some pretty big opens, but also notice that it's existing IP also. So Beauty and the Beast, and by IP I mean intellectual property, existing intellectual property, and also like just really like Alice in Wonderland. Like these are really huge, major, tentpole movies. Dark Tower, I mean, considering that it's debuting August 4th, it's debatable how tentpole-ish it is per se. And so once you get outside of these like expanded universes of existing IP, Oz, all sort of stuff, The Hobbit, Maleficent. I mean, the closest comparable might be around. I mean, maybe Chronicles. I don't know, because that's a series of books also, and it had like a children's element. The Dark Tower. What would be the I guess the closest might be The Last Airbender, maybe, because although that was a series of books as well, and terribly done by M. Night Shyamalan, just terribly, terribly done. maybe the Scorpion King might be a decent comp for it, only because it, although existing IP, it was an offshoot of something that already exists. And the Dark Tower, I mean, it's based off of a Stephen King novel. I can't. I'm not sure if it had like a series of books or whatever per se, but I think the Scorpion King is not a bad comp for it versus something, you know, or you know, actually Last Airbender 2, because that was supposed to be like the beginning of like a franchise. It obviously did not take off. All these were like big budget mega blockbuster existing IP type stuff. And although technically the Dark Tower is existing IP, it's the first entry in its franchise. So the Last Airbender might be a good one. Although the Scorpion King was like an offshoot of the Mummy, no one really took that too seriously. They really saw it as like a vehicle for The Rock. So these two might be a decent comp. 40 million, 36 million, split difference, call it 38 million. That might be on the high side. So that's what I'm saying as far as like looking at genres can help when you try to figure out the value of an opening weekend. And I have to admit, the Dark Tower, I didn't quite understand the trailers, but at least the first trailer, but as the last trailer came out, I'm kind of psyched. I'm probably going to see it this weekend. I don't know if it's good enough to be like the Lock movie. I'm really interested in seeing Detroit. I might just go see that. So yeah, so you know, and also pair up of Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey. You know, I mean, and I'm very interested to see how well this will pull for Idris Elba fans. This truly is like his first above the line headliner type movie, Idris Elba, where he is like, you know, the top line star of a summer action flick. So I'm intrigued. Color me intrigued. What's that show with Dan Le Batard and his dad Poppy, his Cuban dad Poppy? See, I'm very intrigued. So we'll find out just how intrigued people are. Fairly lesser known director, Nikolai Arcel. I'm not familiar with him, so it's not. So pretty much it's going to be on the strength of the star power of Idris, McConaughey, and Stephen King, existing IP. So we'll see how that plays out. Catherine Winnick, why is she a higher star than who is she? All right, she is beautiful. Not familiar with her. Not why she's a higher star in the star meter. IMDb, fix your shit. Anyways, so I'm gonna have some Dark Tower off the top of it. Also, you want to be very aware of what's going to perform well in its release type. So, for example, in platform release, platform can always be a bit of can always be a bit of a, well, I would say dumpster fire, but a crapshoot. But in a week like this, where we know that an Inconvenient sequel is going to be expanding, there it is. Now, I guess 400 screens. I have no idea how many screens it's going to expand to. Like, to be honest, I have no idea. But let me look for an Inconvenient sequel. Real quick look at on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, it gets. I mean, first of all, the per screen was off the charts. We'll get to that in a second. But look at Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, interesting. Only 78% fresh, so not as high as I thought it would be. Only 43% liked it. That's disturbing. That's out. Maybe it's because it's a little too dour, or whatever. Our environment's going to hell in a handbasket. I don't know. That's interesting because these were all really higher before it debuted last weekend. One thing I maybe over rely on, and I will admit to being guilty of that, are the previous weekend's per screen averages and or per theater averages. Now, to me, this is important because this gives you an indicator on how well a movie is going to perform. Generally, you can kind of guesstimate how much per screen per theater a movie is going to do, and then extrapolate that out to how many points you're going to get. So, for example, last weekend, Detroit did $17,510 per screen on only 20 screens. That obviously is super high and unsustainable. So if it expands out to 2,800 screens, I would expect it to be somewhere along the lines of a Dunkirk per se, especially with this tomato meter stuff. I mean, let's just go back to this real quick. I mean, 95% critics average, which it's not. I mean, it's something. I mean, some movies are review proof, like the Transformers series to an extent, whatever. But this is very interesting. 95% want to see it. Now, how does that rate to other films? Girl Trip, 87% tomato meter, 88% liked it, really high. Also, larger sample size, over 100 reviews and 12,000 user ratings. Now, obviously, on a movie like Detroit, not released yet, 7,000, almost 8,000 people want to see it. So that just gives us an indicator of sentiment of people want to see the movie. Now, let's contrast it to the Emoji Movie. 6% tomato meter, 45% of people liked it. All these numbers are dismal for an animated film, which animated films have a very, very low bar to clear. So keeping in mind that movie still eked out 24.5 million. But and it's Cinema Score. That's another tool. We have so many tools in our toolkit. I'm telling you, Cinema Score. Cinema Score tends to come out like Friday evening, so it's a little bit after the fact, a little bit beyond when it's time to lock in our call sheets. But you can get an idea of what's been getting what the general mood of the audience is. Like, for example, Dunkirk, A-. That makes sense. Girls Trip, A+. And pretty much that's like the only A+ I see here. I mean, that just shows you how on the Girls Trip people were. And Wonder Woman A, that's why it's still making money. And to be honest with you, that I feel highly vindicated. Y'all are making fun of me in the group chat. And that's that's probably the best resource you can have, to be honest with you, is the group chat. The group chat's awesome. The group chat is constantly talking strategy. Now, I'll just, I'll drag this over real quick. Take a look at the group chat. We are, hold on a second. Here we go. We are always talking strategy. Look at this. Nick Ringwald, aka Ringballs, talking about like how many screens an Inconvenient Sequel might be on. Michael Volante. People you see at the tip top of Jason Stern, aka Gamble24X7. People you see at the tip top week after week are in the group chat. I'm just trying to tell y'all. Get in the group chat. Ways you can join. We have it's easily accessible on our Facebook page. Go to our Facebook page. We keep a sticky under the notes section. Join our group chat. There's a link to it. Free to join. It's a public group chat. We're always talking strategy all week long. Side bets galore as well. In case you want to get your gamble on. But yeah, it's so basically, a lot of tools are at disposal, including Cinema Score. Give you an idea of how films going to perform. And basically, if a film's not getting at least like a B+ or an A-, I mean, then people really don't like that movie. Like, for example, Rough Night got a C+, and it didn't do well at the box office at all. So a lot of tools are at disposal. So it's kind of prepping you for the thought process behind when I start actually building my call sheet. So it's also and the longer movie is out, obviously the less money is going to pull in. But you also have to look at holds and basically the percentage change. So Dunkirk in its second weekend dropped only 47%, which is really good because big films tend to drop 50, 55, 60% in their second weekend. So that hold is pretty strong off of a $55 million open. And it's type of movie, because I saw it a second time, I think, a week ago, and it's the type of movie where I saw in that screening, it was like a daytime 4:30 p.m. screening. A lot of older people, and older people definitely drive continued box office. So like while young people, will rush out and see a movie its opening weekend, older people discover a movie generally. These are all, this is apocryphal, but also there might be some statistics back this up as well. But older people tend to discover movies later. Like they're not in a rush, they will get to a movie in its 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th week. So I saw a lot of older people at my daytime screening in Summerlin, which is a section of Las Vegas that tends to have a lot of retirees. So skewed sample, but generally older people see movies later. Like my mom, I think, just saw Baby Driver last weekend. Baby Driver's been out for like a month and a half, so that just lets you know. And you're young at heart, Mom. We love you, Draft Mom. But yeah, she saw Baby Driver like in its fifth weekend of it being out. But so a movie like Dunkirk is going to have legs because older people are going to discover it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dunkirk dropped like only 33%. So that's going to get you like 17 million, 17.42 points at 1 point per million per actor in wide release. The Emoji Movie, I would avoid like the plague. That sucker's going to drop off. It is definitely on the cutting room floor because of the bad reviews, because of just seeing such a soft opening. If this drops by 50%, 60%, you're looking at like 10 million. And 10 million at even at 11,000 isn't even worth your time because you can get a movie like Girls Trip, your A+ performer at 19 million. It only dropped 37%. That's an outstanding hold, especially for a comedy, especially for an African American comedy in wide release. That's just an outstanding hold. I see it doing probably another 11 or 12 million. I mean, so 19.6 million minus, let's say it loses 40% this weekend. That's still 11.76 million. So essentially 12 million. That's fairly strong hold. And price wise, it's still pretty affordable. Well, actually, I ticked it up a little bit, 1,000, but you might want to have some Girls Trip on there. Landline, I believe, expands. Once again, I don't know how many screens. 300 might be a bit much. How many screens was on last week? Landline was on. Landline was on. Oh, okay, 38 screens last week. Okay, cool. So I know it's supposed to expand wider this weekend, but 300 might be a stretch. But 150, 200, 300, it's expanding. Its per screen average is pretty solid, 3,300. So let's say if we're expecting it to go to 300 at, let's say, 2,500 per screen, 750,000 is nothing to sneeze at, especially at min price, essentially. Starting at 5,000, which is our minimum price for all actors in this game, going to 5,500 for Jenny Slate, the star of this movie. There could be some value there because at 750,000 is at 1 point per 100,000 per actor in platform release. That's 7.5 points. That could be really crucial coming down the stretch. Lady Macbeth, no idea. Its rollout seems to be pretty slow rollout. And it's pretty decent per screen average. So yeah, so let's sort this by per screen. There we go. Ooh, Battleship Island. What's that about? One screen, 59,000. And see, an Inconvenient Sequel, 31,000 per screen. It's not sustainable. Once again, I'm not sure how many screens could be on. I guess maybe 400. If we're keeping with that guess, it's still assuming a pretty high per screen. Now, let's say it does, I don't know, 12,000 per screen, which sounds really high, but people really want to see this movie. People care about the environment. I don't tell you. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. We care about the environment. So let's say it does, let's say it does 11,000 per screen, all right? On 400 screens, that's 4.4 million, which at 1 point per million in platform release is essentially 44 points. That is fucking fantastic. So let's keep our eye on an Inconvenient Sequel. We know it's expanding. We just don't know by how much. Actually, let's take a look. Well, once again, stuff at our disposal. Maybe, was it showtimes.com? That's another resource. Thank you. Hat tip to your boy Ringballs. He introduced that to us in the group chat. Just saying. Hashtag just saying. Inconvenient Sequel. There we go. Truth to Power. Let's try to get an idea of showtimes. So it's going to be everywhere out here. All theaters. It's going to be a lot of different theaters on Friday. Or actually, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that it? Are there more? Okay. So let me dial it back. It's only going to be on 3 screens out here. Okay. I wonder if she changed. I wish she could do like USA, like get a whole broad view. But let's take a look at LA generally. My old zip code 90260. So yeah, okay, so it's gonna be out. Oh wow, it's gonna be everywhere in LA. So 400 screens might not be out of row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you get isn't it? Okay, so you get 9 per. Oh, sorry, that's the last one. So you're getting 10 theaters per page. Looks like about 89 screens just from the LA area. Okay, I feel better. I think 400 isn't too off. So if you're assuming 400-ish, even 350, you're looking at a lot of fancy points. So I might stock up on an Inconvenient Sequel. So let's start building a call sheet because I think I've got the building blocks in place. We'll come back to this screen in a little bit. So this could be one of those weekends where, oh man, so I'm really feeling an Inconvenient Sequel. I mean, 11,000 per screen sounds a tad high, but I'm telling you, people want to see this movie. So I'm going to max out. I'm going to max pack an Inconvenient Sequel because then I still have a ton of money left over. It's platform release, 1 point per 100,000 per actor, and so now I still have 73,000 remaining. That's awesome. Okay, so then now we're going to look at Dark Tower. We're definitely getting ourselves headliner stack of that. 36,000 left for 3 slots. That's essentially, okay, so 12,000 per left. We can probably do, now this is where it gets tricky because Dunkirk is performing so well, you kind of want to have some exposure to it, especially if you can get a headliner for cheap. Headliner is 16,500. You know what? Let's do this. Let's go Dunkirk. Let's see if we can afford 2 headliners. Nope. Okay, we can do 1 headliner. Okay, so let's do Cillian Murphy, headliner from Dunkirk. 19,900 left over. We need limited release. Now, now in limited release. If we go by release type, let's kind of click over and see what we're dealing with here. I'm doing it as you would. There we go. Baby Driver. As far as per screen goes, we're estimating 1,500 per screen, maybe. Sorry, it's taking a minute to load. There we go. Estimated 1,500 per screen. So Baby Driver's up there. Wonder Woman is still doing its thing. Let's see. Well, we're gonna do a little cheat sheet a little bit. Let's go by per screen. If we're going by per screen, it looks like, actually, let me sort this per screen. Wrong way. There we go. Going by per screen, looks like at the highest end of limited release can be Baby Driver and Wonder Woman. Also, The Big Sick. Let's take a look at how those did last weekend. You know, I love my per screen averaging. By per screen average, the first one we run into is Baby Driver. Did 3.9 million. Wonder Woman did 3.3. And look, Wonder Woman's got legs for days, but we might need to take a close look at Baby Driver. Even The Big Sick. If we assume Baby Driver is going to have the most amount of screens in limited release, and once again, limited release is 501 to 1,900, 1,999 screens, so just shy of 2,000 screens. I mean, and you get 1 point per 500,000. This really matters. So if you assume another 40% drop off over this weekend, from 3.9 million, you're looking at 2.34 million. So, you know, still not the greatest, but, you know, if you're looking at limited release, this might be what we're looking for right here. It's affordable. Let's see what it costs. Baby Driver. Oh, let's go back here. Because we're basically punting. Oh, come on. All right, so that's occasionally this happens in the system, gets confused. It sometimes needs to. It loses way. So just refresh your page. You won't lose your spot. You should have all your actors up there and everything. There you go. Now Baby Driver. There we go. All right, 9,500. and 9,200 for your headliner. So let's get Ansel Elgort. All right. And so now we have 10,700 left over. So what can we get for that price? Let's sort this by salary. There we go. Man, I really want exposure to Girls Trip. I'm not sure if I can, though. In this range, yeah, 11,200 is the cheapest Girls Trip. 10,007. You know what? I mean, as much as I don't like the Emoji Movie, it's kind of in our price range. It's kind of in our budget. Atomic Blonde second weekend. Yeah, no thanks. I don't know, y'all. What do you think? What can we afford for this price that's going to give us the returns we want? Because now it's a matter of points. So if we're assuming 2.34 million next weekend for Baby Driver times 2, it's essentially 4.68 points. By the what was it, the law of substitution, whatever, what other movies can get us 4.68 points for 10,000 or less? Now, we've already maxed out an Inconvenient Sequel, so we can't go back there. Is there something, and we've already satisfied all of our requirements as far as having an actor from each of the 3 release types, wide, limited, and platform. So now it's basically coming down to sheer points. What do we think can get us those points? And you know what? The Big Sick, on a per-screen basis last weekend, did pretty well. What did it do? Big Sick, it did 2,000 per screen. So if you imagine 1,500 per screen on 1,100 screens, 1.65 million, it's not too bad. But honestly, we might as well just double down with Baby Driver, to be honest with you, because it seems like that's the best use of our money. Also, nothing else really jumping out at me. I mean, at least with Baby Driver, we can guarantee another 4.68, or with the headliner bonus of 40%, another 6.55 points. Unless, and this is where I always get a little nervous, because then you have, like, in platform release, you're always looking at stuff like hold on. In platform release, you're always looking at stuff like your Ghost Stories, which did pretty well last weekend, but it's on the decline. Lady Macbeth has been getting solid per screen averages, but we don't know how much higher it's going to grow. And I actually had that wrong. Last week's screens was on. Actually, I'm sorry. How many screens was Lady Macbeth on last weekend? Lady Macbeth, because per screen is not bad. Oh, because it was 104 screens, 1,600 per screen. Nah, that's okay. You always kind of wonder about. Look at this, a movie like Wolf Warrior 2. I'm guessing it's going to go. It's going to expand to 100 screens. There's no, concrete evidence that it will. On only 53 screens, it did 219,000, which is good, but that's not 6.55 points worth. Because as you know, 1 point per 100,000 per actor in platform release. You need about 650,000 for that. So just thinking out loud here, Step seems interesting, only on 30 screens, about a documentary on a black female step team. So I can't, since I can't guarantee my estimate of 100 screens for Wolf Warrior 2, we'll just play it safe. You know what? Landline looks interesting. Actually, now I think about it, let's use the rest of that money for Landline. That's a good bit of a punt, because Landline, look at its per screen average last weekend. Landline did 3,300. If you estimate 2,500 per screen times 300 screens, that's 750,000, or 7.5 fantasy points per actor. And if we just get one headliner with a 40% bonus, that's 10 points right there. Let's take a flyer on Landline. Why not? Let's take a flyer on Landline. Jenny Slate. That's my boo thing. All right, so there. And you've got 5,200 left over, which, I mean, unless we want to lose one of the inconvenient sequels, which I do not. Only other thing I can think of is maybe you might want to, instead of, I mean, so now if we assume if we assume the Dark Tower is going to do along the lines of what HSX said it would do, which is, just as a quick refresher, about 26 million. Well then, and if we think Christopher Nolan's going to do another 19 million this weekend, then we really can't give up this headliner, because if it's going to be another 19 million times 1.4, to be the 40% bonus, 26.6 million right there. They're about even. So you're basically foregoing. So basically, the opportunity cost of another Dark Tower actor, which would be a non-headliner because we have our headliner stack of Elba and McConaughey already in there. You're basically foregoing that for a headliner from Dunkirk, which, to be honest with you, has a little bit better upside in that category. So we're going to keep him there. So it's going to be 5,200 light. I'm submitting that as my call sheet. I like it for now. Solid call sheet, and we use all the tools in this one. So definitely, make sure you're using all the tools, and we'll bring in for landing there. We've talked for a great bit of time about strategy and everything, but those are all the tools. Use your tools, everybody. Use your tools to create a better shot list, because you go up against some killers, some assassins, some the group chat players. They're always in the top 5. So join our group chat. See what we're talking about. Do the research. Do the homework. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for watching, following along on all of our social media, for subscribing on iTunes and SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast from. It is free to play and free to listen. Still have our prize pool, over $200 in prizes coming out or going out this weekend. Once again, as a reminder, make sure you double check your call sheets after Theater Lock, which is at 6 p.m. Pacific time Thursday night, and then the game runs live at 10 p.m. Pacific time Thursday night. So make sure you double check your call sheets. Thanks, everybody, for listening and for watching and all that good stuff. And, of course, between now and the next time, make sure sorry, about to put you on a tagline. Why don't you go see a movie or something?